Hi, welcome to Module 1, Introduction to Humanitarian Service. Humanitarian service plays a critical role in alleviating human suffering, especially in times of crisis such as natural disasters, armed conflicts, and other emergencies. This module provides a comprehensive introduction to the essential concepts, principles, and practices of humanitarian service. It aims to equip learners with the foundational knowledge required to understand the field of humanitarian aid, its ethical frameworks, and the global efforts to mitigate suffering. Key concepts to explore: what humanitarian service is and why it is essential, the core principles that guide humanitarian actions, the importance of neutrality, impartiality, and independence in humanitarian work, the roles of international organizations, NGOs, and local actors in humanitarian responses, ethical considerations when providing aid and assistance, understanding the distinction between humanitarian aid and development work. Definition of humanitarian service. Humanitarian service refers to actions undertaken to provide immediate relief, security, and recovery to individuals and communities who are facing crisis. The goal is to save lives, alleviate suffering, and restore dignity to those affected by disasters, armed conflict, or other emergencies. Humanitarian services include the provision of basic necessities such as food, water, shelter, healthcare, and protection. Humanitarian action is guided by the humanitarian principles and is often conducted in a politically neutral manner to avoid exacerbating conflicts. Humanitarian service can be distinguished from development work, which focuses on long-term solutions and economic growth. Humanitarian principles. Humanitarian principles form the foundation of all humanitarian work. They ensure that humanitarian aid is provided impartially, ethically, and in a manner that prioritizes human dignity. The main principles are: humanity. The fundamental purpose of humanitarian work is to prevent and alleviate human suffering wherever it is found, with particular attention to vulnerable groups such as women, children, and the elderly. Humanity dictates that people affected by disaster and conflict should receive assistance regardless of their race, religion, nationality, or political affiliation. Neutrality. Humanitarian organizations and aid workers must remain neutral and not take sides in any conflict or dispute. This is critical to gaining and maintaining access to affected populations, especially in areas where conflicts are ongoing. Neutrality helps maintain the trust of all parties involved in a crisis and ensures that aid is not politicized. Impartiality. Aid is provided based solely on need, without any discrimination. Impartiality ensures that the most vulnerable individuals are prioritized, especially in situations where resources are limited. This principle ensures that humanitarian services reach the individuals who are suffering the most, regardless of their background. Independence. Humanitarian aid must be delivered in a way that is independent of political, military, or economic interest. The principle of independence guarantees that humanitarian efforts remain focused solely on alleviating suffering without being influenced by other agendas. Types of humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid is generally categorized into three main types based on the timing and focus of the intervention. Emergency relief. This is immediate aid provided to populations affected by natural disasters, conflicts, or other sudden emergencies. Emergency relief includes food distribution, clean water, medical supplies, and temporary shelter to meet the urgent needs of the affected individuals. Development assistance. Although not the primary focus of humanitarian work, development assistance can play a critical role after immediate needs have been met. This form of aid focuses on long-term sustainable solutions, such as economic development, education, and infrastructure improvements to enhance resilience and reduce vulnerability. Reconstruction and rehabilitation. After the immediate crisis has been addressed, efforts shift toward rebuilding communities and restoring their livelihoods. Reconstruction includes rebuilding infrastructure, homes, schools, and healthcare systems, while rehabilitation focuses on restoring essential services and supporting economic recovery. The role of humanitarian organizations. Humanitarian organizations play a pivotal role in responding to crises. They can be governmental, non-governmental, or intergovernmental entities working together to provide assistance. Some of the most prominent international organizations include the Red Cross/Red Crescent movement, one of the largest and most recognized humanitarian organizations. It provides emergency relief, healthcare, and protection to those in need worldwide. United Nations agencies, e.g., UNICEF, UNHCR, WFP. The UN system coordinates and delivers humanitarian assistance in conflict and post-conflict situations, with specific agencies focusing on children, refugees, food security, and more. Medicine Sans Frontieres, Doctors Without Borders, an NGO that provides medical care in emergency situations, particularly in conflict zones and areas hit by epidemics or disasters. Humanitarian organizations often collaborate to ensure effective response efforts. Coordination is essential to avoid duplication of efforts and to maximize the impact of available resources. Humanitarian response in crisis. When a crisis occurs, humanitarian organizations must respond quickly and efficiently to save lives and reduce suffering. A rapid assessment is often carried out to determine the needs of the affected population, followed by the mobilization of resources, including personnel, financial support, and relief supplies. The humanitarian response typically follows a structured process. Assessment and needs analysis. Understanding the extent of the crisis and the needs of the affected population is the first step in the response. This is done through field assessments, gathering data from survivors, and collaborating with local authorities and experts. Emergency relief operations. Immediate actions are taken to provide food, water, shelter, and healthcare services, focusing on the most critical needs. Ongoing support and recovery. Once the immediate needs are met, long-term recovery efforts begin, focusing on rehabilitation, rebuilding, and supporting community resilience. Ethical considerations in humanitarian aid. Humanitarian workers face a wide range of ethical challenges, especially when working in complex or politically sensitive environments. Ethical considerations in humanitarian work include ensuring that aid is delivered in an unbiased, neutral, and non-political manner. Maintaining the dignity and privacy of beneficiaries. Navigating the complexities of working in conflict zones where it can be misused for political or military gain. Protecting humanitarian workers themselves who may face risks of violence or other threats. Planning outcomes. By the end of this module, you will be able to define humanitarian service and distinguish it from development work. Identify and explain the core humanitarian principles. Recognize different types of humanitarian aid and their specific functions. Understand the role of various humanitarian organizations and their coordination efforts. Identify the key ethical challenges in delivering humanitarian aid and discuss strategies for addressing them. Okay, that will be it for this module. Take the quiz to proceed to the next module. See you on the next module.